The journey to wealth is a long walk, and some people may walk quicker than others. But what good is sprinting to the finish line if you pass out when you cross it? This is Walk to Wealth with your host, John Mendez. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Walk to Wealth podcast. If you're tuning in on YouTube or any of the podcast directories, make sure to do yourself one teeny tiny little favor and make sure to give us a follow, because I don't want you to miss out on any of the amazing guests I got coming on this year. Without further ado, the guy I have coming on today is someone that I've met online at first over the years. We kind of stayed in touch. We watched each other's content, supported each other from afar, and then got to connect recently this year, hit it off. And we actually, a couple weeks ago, for those that are OG listeners of the podcast, you know that I did a birthday party, like networking event. So we got to finally connect in person there and really just, catch up, have a good time together, celebrate, party. And now we have him on the podcast. So Francisco, for anyone who hasn't had the pleasure, the opportunity to get to know you, to get to meet you yet, tell us your quick elevator pitch. Who are you and what do you do?
Sure thing. Oh, thanks, John, for having me here. And I'm so happy that I was able to connect with you on your birthday. It's been a couple of years since you've been doing it, and for B reason, I wasn't able to attend. So that was pretty awesome. We had a great time. And yes, my name is Francisco Rodriguez. I'm a senior mortgage loan officer with Magnolia Bank. My passion, my drive, it's my community, and it's what I do. It's education. So aside from helping them with their mortgages, my main goal is to educate my client to make the right decision, to not just throw any program out there and say, you're qualified for this, but guide them through the right process, show them, what they're getting into, and so that way they can create that generational wealth, which is my main goal.
Amazing. So before we get into that, you kind of mentioned the word wealth, which leads perfectly into the first question I want to ask you is, what is your definition of the word wealth?
To me personally, the definition of wealth, it's family. I'm a big family guy. As you can see, my social media is 90% kids, 90% family. So as long as I have my family, health, and then everything else comes last. So I'm wealthy already by waking up every morning. I'm alive, I'm healthy, I have my family, I'm already wealthy. The rest will come into place.
100%. And so take us back, I guess, to your childhood a little bit. What was your upbringing like? Did you have a big family growing up, or did you come from broken? Like, when did family start to become important from you? And like, take us back to your childhood.
Sure thing. Well, I don't come from a big family. I have, it's just me and my brother. I'm the oldest. Mm-hmm. My brother is 25, if I'm not mistaken. And so we have a 10-year gap, right? But I do have a lot of uncles, a lot of aunts. I think I have like 7 in total. So in that aspect, I do have a big family with my mom, my grandma, my uncles, and cousins. So we were always very together. My childhood, what can I say? I didn't have it all, but it was perfect to me. I grew up with my mom. She was a single mom. I know my dad. I have a connection and communication with my dad. He's still in Ecuador. But I grew up mainly with my mom. And I can't complain. And that's where I get it all from my mother, the drive, the financial education. She was awesome in finances. Like I said, we didn't have it all. But I always remember, she always had this little book, forgot what it's called, but she will write down every single penny that she will spend.
Wow.
On that book and keep balance of her finances. So, and that's what I get that from my mother by seeing that throughout the years.
Yeah, so she pretty much had doing her own manual bookkeeping.
Yeah.
Pretty much. That's awesome, man. And remind me, were you born in the States or were you born in Ecuador?
I was born in Ecuador. I came here when I was 16. So
16,
half of my life
was in Ecuador, yeah. And
Correct.
So take us back. So how old were you when you saw your mom and realized your mom tracking her expenses and making sure that she stayed within her budgets? At what age did you start to realize that and understand it?
Probably I would say around 7, 8 years old.
Wow, so pretty young, pretty early.
Yes, pretty young because I remember clearly, when we used to go to school, they would give us money for lunch, right?
Hmm.
And I would say, like, hey, like this is not enough, like I need more. And she'll be like, look, listen, and she'll show me the book. This is what I have, this is what we need, and this is all we can afford. So either
Yeah,
you take it, figure it out, that should be enough for you to go through the day. So that's one of the things that I have instilled in my mind
yeah,
since then, her showing me at that age exactly what our finances were.
yeah. That's amazing, man. And 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 for anyone that doesn't know, what was life like growing up in Ecuador? Because again, most people born and raised here in the States, they don't know life outside of the world. So like, what was it like
Yeah.
growing up in Ecuador?
To me, honestly, it was great as a child, just because we had that outdoor experience, right?
Yeah.
And now also nowadays with the technology, it's so difficult. But in Ecuador, I grew up going outside and play with my friends.
Mhm.
Hey, they will come and knock on my door. Hey, Frank, we're playing, soccer. We're playing hide and seek, whatever it was. We were just like out there, ride my bicycle throughout the whole neighborhood. Um, but at the same time, it was a little bit depressing to see so much poverty
Mhm.
around the areas. I wasn't either poor or rich, but I was in between enough. But I will see, right? But only because my mom worked so hard. My grandma, my family, they all always worked so hard to provide, right? But then there was so much poverty around me, so that was the hard part.
Yeah, okay. And then so fast forward a little bit. So you came to the US and when you were 16. Did you come here alone? Did you come here with your mom? What was that journey like?
It was my mom and my brother. I
Mhm.
have my grandma and one of my aunts. They petitioned us and for years, and finally got to us. And so my grandma, and my aunt, they've been here for, I don't know, maybe like 30 years or so, right?
Mhm.
So we came directly to Stanford with my mom and my brother, and now the rest of my uncles and aunts, they've been coming in phases, because when you do that, when they petition a mom or a sister, it takes years for that to go through.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you came here with your mom and your brother, and you came directly with Stanford, which is interesting because that's my
Yeah,
hometown. So you
yeah,
came
yeah.
directly here, which is amazing.
Yeah, I lived in
Uh,
Stanford for I think 10, 11 years or so.
wow.
And it was awesome. I mean, I remember when Stanford was just like, I don't know, a small town. And now every
Yeah.
time I go to Stanford, there's like a new building every weekend.
I know it's so annoying. It's good to see, but like, man, the traffic isn't getting any better. So it's like, as someone that was born and raised here, like, it's just
Yeah,
like, more buildings, more traffic, more waiting to
yeah,
like driving through downtown during rush hour is so annoying. But hey,
yeah.
um,
And I
I guess
still
that's what
go to
we
my,
do.
sorry to cut you. Like I have so much in Stanford that even my barber, I've been going to the same barber for the past 17 years.
Yeah.
So I was in Stanford yesterday just to get a haircut. I live in
Okay.
Orange now. All the way
Yeah.
from Orange, I go to Stanford to get my haircut.
No, that's amazing, man. That's loyalty. That's important to have nowadays, man.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
tell everyone like you can't cheat on your barber. That is like the lowest of the low. If you cheat on your barber, I can't
Exactly.
trust you. If you don't have a go-to barber, that's it. Like that's just a red flag, man. I gotta keep you
Yeah,
away. But so Francisco, take us back to that time period. So you came here, right? The position you finally made it. How what was like some of the thoughts that you were feeling, right? Because you were now pretty much going away from everyone that you grew up with. What was kind of going through your mind? Did you speak the language? Did you speak English coming in? Like, so take us through some of that, the emotions that you were feeling during that time period as you were transitioning here.
sure, sure. Well, to begin with, no, I didn't have. I had the basics of English.
Yeah.
Hello, hi, good afternoon, good morning. So I was an ESL kid.
Hmm.
My wife and always makes fun of me because she's like, I ended up with an ESL kid, right? But I'm like, look where we are now, right? That ESL
Yeah.
kid took your places. So that's the joke in the family always. So no English. I did get used to the States right away.
Yeah.
I liked it. I loved it. It was a little bit sad living in Ecuador because I left, I think, at right in the middle of high school. I was one
Yeah.
year about to finish high school in Ecuador, and I went to a Navy school,
Hmm.
and I was part of the, what do you call that? Like the band right? That we will march on towns. So we used to
Yeah.
travel all over Ecuador, and that was fun. I loved that. So I missed that part when I came here, but I loved it. As soon as I came here, I made friends. I think I started working a few months later. My first job was at a McDonald's in Exit 9.
Yeah.
So seeing that paycheck, even though it was nothing, I remember it was like $200 biweekly. But I was
Nice.
so happy with those $200. Like that was to me that was a lot of money back then.
Yeah.
That was the beginning period of me coming to the States.
Yeah, and for anyone that's listening, like there's like a running joke with like the Exit 9 McDonald's, like about like it's all Spanish people that
Yeah,
are always working there. Is
that was the meet spot, man.
Yeah, that was it was a spot, man. And so all right, so you can fast forward us a little bit in the journey. So you finished high school, you already started working pretty much shortly after. What was kind of like your thought process? Were you entrepreneurial? Were you just like, hey, I just need to work somewhere and make some money? Like, what was kind of like your thought process as you entered into the workforce? Did you have like big dreams, or were you just trying to make enough money to get by?
Yeah, so nothing entrepreneurial back then. My mind was always, like I mentioned before, I grew up and I went to school at a Navy school. My
Yeah.
dad was a Marine in Ecuador. So I had that like army mentality, right? Like I wanted to, I went to West Hill and I did ROTC, JROTC.
Hmm.
And my goal was to either, become a Marine or Army or become a police officer. So eventually, I actually took the test to be a Marine, but I did it like the same year that I came here. I was a junior in high school, and I didn't have the English, so I didn't pass, obviously. So since then, I said, okay, I want to be a police officer. So that was my dream career for a very long time. As soon as I turned 21 and I got my citizenship, I was a resident. I became a citizen at 21. I applied to Stanford Police Department. I went to criminal justice. I went to Norwalk Community College for criminal justice, and I was placed on the waiting list for the police in Stanford. I never got called, so I continue doing my things, working, going to school. 2 years later, I apply again. I applied for Stanford, Norwalk, and I think it was New Canaan. Again, I passed, everything good, waiting list, and I actually got called in Stanford. Went through the whole process, physical, medical, the whole 9 yard. I got to the interview phase. But, I don't know, I like to call it divine intervention. Once I went inside and I want to believe that I was almost hired, something didn't click. Something was like, this is really not for you. And it was really troublesome because I was like, this is what I've been working for. I worked out, back in the day, I used to work out, I used to run, I, went to school for this. I'm like, why? I don't understand what's going on. But something really strong pulled me. God was like, this is really not for you. Once I went to the police station in Stanford, kind of so like, and this is not, nothing to say against police, but to me it was like, man, they look not okay. They look sad. At least when I went that day, it
Hmm.
gave me like a vision type of thing. So that was that. And then a few years later, I came into this world of real estate. And now I come to the realization that I think it was because I was meant to have a big family and the flexibility. Because to be a police officer, you always have to be out there to make enough money. It has to be years and also working overtime. And I think that's why. Now as you can see, I'm always, going to all my son's soccer practice, don't
Camping, in the
everything.
woods, hiking.
Exactly. So
I see it all the time on Instagram. Like this guy's freaking over here shooting freaking cans, and I'm like, oh my goodness! And you're hitting him too. I'm like, oh, this guy got good aim. I gotta make sure I stay on Francisco's good side.
yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, like I said, that was my career. So I'm all into law enforcement.
Yeah.
So as soon as I could, I got my gun permit, bought my gun, and that's what I do when I go to Vermont.
Yeah.
I practice over there.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. I always got that vibe from you that you were very structured. The way you carry yourself, the way you present yourself out in public, like you always present yourself very well put together. And I didn't know what it was, but it makes sense now that you tell me that you come from a Marine background / Army background. Like it makes total
Yeah.
sense. Like,
Oh, that's good to know.
um, yeah, you carry yourself well. And so, okay, so fast forward just a little bit. So, you were striving super hard for this one goal that you thought you wanted, only to come right to the finish line and realize, hey, maybe this is not for me. And you mentioned divine intervention, and then decide to pivot. What kind of sparked the whole real estate journey? Was it mortgages in itself? Was it like real estate investing? Like, what made you think like, hey, this is the industry for me? Take us to that time period in your life.
Yeah. So again, it was all not even coincidence. It was just the path I was meant to take. I was working at in the food and beverage industry for a hotel in Madison. I was a food and beverage manager. And as you can imagine, food and beverage also is just like crazy hours, right? It was at a very five-star hotel in Madison at the restaurant, and it was crazy hours, right? Sometimes I would have to close the restaurant. I would have to wait until everybody leaves because as the manager, you have to, make sure everything is good and clean for the next shift. So I was getting home like 2, 3 in the morning.
Hmm.
And then for the next day, sometimes I even open. So it was a crazy thing. I didn't like it. I was not happy. So a friend of mine was like, hey, like there's a position open here at this bank that I'm working at. If you want to give it a try, and see what happens. And talk to my wife. I was like, hey, like it was gonna be a crazy pay reduction, right? But I was like, like I'm just tired of this. So I went, did the interview. The bank was in Stanford. It was called iServe Residential Lending. And I met with the owner, did the interview, and he was like, yeah, well, I think you're a little bit over too qualified for this exact position. It's like,
Hmm.
would you like to try being a loan officer? So I again talked to my wife, and because as you know, loan officer, it's all commission based.
Commission.
So I was like, okay, well, let's give it a try. And the rest is history. Then after being trying for the loan officer, one of the processors left for the bank. So the manager was like, you want to do this as well. So that way you can have that training and background. And that was also salary. So I like that idea, salary, bonuses, and then, eventually commission. So it's like, okay, that sounds more like, financial stable for me.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I did processing, and that's where I got basically pretty much all my knowledge of mortgage because it's the background, right? The back end of the mortgage industry.
Yeah.
The rest is history. Ever since then, I loved it. I talking to the clients and, guiding them. And when I bought my first house, also, that was another thing that made me go the direction that I am in. I was not educated at all. Like I told you, my wife handled that whole transaction. I just signed. She's like, all right,
Yeah.
we're buying a house. I was like, okay, sure. I didn't know anything. I didn't know what kind of mortgage I was getting into, what was my rate, what was my monthly payment. It was a duplex, what was my house, the limits of my house, nothing. So I was like, listen, you know what? This is not what I want for my clients. So because of that,
What if one tool was all you need to start your business and make your first 6 or 7 figures? See, I was never entrepreneurial growing up. And after starting my first business, I spent the first 2.5 years completely lost. Nothing worked for me until I found Kajabi. See, if you offer coaching, courses, if you have a private community, if you want to start a podcast, a newsletter, a blog, if you have a membership community, Kajabi has you covered. They have everything you need to start, scale, and sustain your business all in one. So I want to offer you a free strategy session where we'll talk about your business, your goals, and how Kajabi can help you. All you have to do is use the link in the description, and as an extra bonus, I'll get you a free 30-day trial to test out Kajabi. Normally, they only offer 2 weeks, so hurry up, click the link in the description. With that being said, let's get right back into this episode.
now every client that I speak to, it's like I'm talking to a family, right?
Mhm.
Making sure that they know what they're getting into, making sure that they know what programs are out there.
Mhm.
And that was my inspiration pretty much.
Yeah, that's amazing. There's a quote I love that talks about heroes and villains, and they say that heroes and villains have the same upbringing. They just go about it two totally different ways, right? Heroes, something bad that happens to them, and they say, you know what? I want to make sure no one else has to go through what I went through, right?
Yeah,
And then villains go through something bad, and it's like, you know what? Screw the world, to hell with
right.
everybody. I'm gonna get my
Exactly.
revenge. The world will feel my pain. So, again, more power to you for taking the first path and being a hero, right? You went through a process of buying a home, were completely uneducated, completely in the dark of the process, and instead of doing that for your clients, you decided, hey, let me make sure this happens to nobody else, and start informing people. So more power to you, man. I'm glad to hear that your story kind of came around full circle, and now you're helping other people with the probably the biggest transaction, especially our
Biggest.
community,
Yeah.
in their entire lives, right? So more power to you. So now we're at present day, right? Now we're here. We kind of caught up. We got the backstory, how you grew up in Ecuador and moved to the States, started working at the Exit 9 McDonald's, and then to the food and beverage industry, and then the police department switch. And now we're here, Francisco, mortgage lender, advisor, just overall amazing guy. What's life like now for you? Because you mentioned wealth earlier, and your definition of wealth was family, right? And you mentioned having that flexibility throughout the conversation. How were you able to kind of build your business around that definition of wealth that you said earlier, which is family? Like, how were you able to do that without also sacrificing the business? A lot of times you hear people say, like, um, you gotta work, 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 work. Like, and especially in real estate, they always say if your phone's not on 24/7, you're not working,
Yeah.
right? And they're proud about that, which I don't understand. I
Hmm.
personally don't think that's value. I just think you have awful boundaries. That's my own 2 cents. So I'm
Yeah.
curious to hear your thoughts. How are you able to build the business around that lifestyle that you want to live for you and your family?
So it was a little bit challenging because, as you know, real estate, right? It's tough and it's like a 24/7 type of thing business, right? But I did manage. I think I did manage pretty well on the beginning years of my family and work. As the years came by and as I became busier, I tried to maintain that. That doesn't mean I'm not available for my clients or, I'm not going to answer. If I can, I answer. But for the most part, most of my partners, they know, like actually was joking around one of the realtors there because they were like, "Oh, Francisco didn't answer me Saturday." He was like, "Yeah, that sounds more like Francisco. He's not gonna answer you probably until like a few hours from now on a Saturday. He's on his son's soccer game or whatever." But I
Yeah.
do get back to it. But also, this job, it's what you put, the amount of work that you put into it is what you get back, right? So I've always been a conscious about that, like I don't care if I'm a millionaire. I don't care if I'm rich. As long as I have what I need, as long as my family is taken care of, I'm okay with that. That doesn't mean I'm not striving for more. I
Hmm.
just know, where I'm happy. And I try not to break my head because, oh my God, like, this month I gotta make X amount of dollars, like,
Yeah.
or I gotta break my record of last year, So that's never been in my head, and I think that's why I was able to divide work and family because of that. Because
That's
most people in sales is it's just a number. They want to surpass the last month's quota or number,
yeah.
and I'm not really like that. Yes, I want to succeed. I want to do more, but it's not my main goal.
Yeah, that's super important because I think it also prevents burnout too as well,
Yeah.
right? So many times that you're just focusing on a number. I think also too focusing on a number kind of takes you away from the fact that there's actual real people that you're
Right.
helping, right? Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes if you get too fixated on that number, you sometimes forget like, oh crap, like these are actual families that I'm helping. And that's
Right.
regardless of whether you're a mortgage lender or a real estate agent or you're in medical sales, or it doesn't matter, like sales is sales. But I think to your point, it's very easy as a salesperson to get
Mm-hmm.
lost in the numbers
Distracted.
and
Yeah.
get distracted by these goals that are arbitrary and really in the grand scheme of things, they're just all made up. right?
Exactly.
They're all made up. Who says that we need to become hit? So more power to you. And I'm curious too. I'm gonna double down a little, at least at this part of this conversation. Um, how were you able to find that self awareness? How were you able to get that level of self awareness for yourself to be okay with, again, not having record months or breaking, everything as long as your family? Because again, a lot of people don't ever take the time to stop and pause and think about that stuff. So, like, what was that process kind of like for you of gaining that self awareness?
I think it's when I became a dad, and as my kid grew up, and then subsequently having more kids, just seeing them out there, like being present, it makes a big difference. When your kid is out there and he's like, "Hey, Dad, tomorrow we're gonna play soccer per se," and me saying, "Yeah, of course, absolutely. Tomorrow I should be home this time and we can play." Whereas, like if I'm like thinking about sales and oh my God, like this month I closed $2 million, you know, tomorrow I gotta stay and work extra. That's where my realization came from. Being able to be there for my kids, be present and attend their activities and do what's best for them.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And then my next question I wanted to ask after that is how ha how do you juggle being a business owner, a dad, and a husband as well? Right? How do you juggle all three? Like, what's
Boy.
your magic sauce?
That's a tough one. It's hard, and it's just a matter of trying, because there's been months where for example, like this year, I have attended a lot of network events,
Yeah,
and that's come to some arguments at home per se, right? But also getting home and I don't even know how to put this, but sometimes like we're working all day. So the background to this is I've worked for the past I think 10 years or so, and my wife has been a stay-at-home mom, right?
yeah,
Taking care of my kids. My kids are homeschooled. Actually, they just started school this week. The two oldest one,
yeah,
9 years old, 7 years old. So those two are going to a school in Shelton. But my wife has been a stay-at-home mom, homeschooling our kids. They don't go to school regular. So getting home, right, to my wife that is doing the most sacrificial job that there is, right? The most sacrificial job, the most consuming job that there is. It's taking care of kids and being stay-at-home wife. And there are times where I get home and then I'm like, I just want to sit down and look through my phone, right? Or watch
yeah,
a movie. And that it's where sometimes it's hard to divide because you want to get home, sit down and relax. But at the same time, like I have kids and my kids are also sitting there. My wife is there waiting for me to, like kind of like mingle with her, talk to her and do these things. It's just like this job, it's so time consuming that you have literally no time to just process everything that you go through the day.
yeah,
And it's hard to divide that, but it's just trying, like if your kid comes to you and say, Daddy, I want to play, which my kids does that all the time. Like I get home, hey, yeah, can we go play basketball or shoot some ball? I'm like, oh man, I have a headache. And then I sit around and I'm like, all right, I gotta go do this. So I go there, and even if it's 5 minutes, I go and play with them for 5 minutes.
yeah. That's amazing. So, all right. So, to kind of pivot a little bit, man. Um, you mentioned earlier in the conversation that a lot of your business is educating other people, right? What are some of like what kind of brought that into you? Because not everyone's a good teacher, right?
Yeah.
So like, what's some of the skill sets that are the things that you did to get these skills of educating others and be a good teacher? Because again, I think a lot of times it's very easy to just. We mentioned sales earlier. A lot of people think sales is just persuasion. I just got to get them to say yes and take out their credit cards, or say yes and sign the line, right? So like, but you take the time to educate people, and so what kind of has helped you become a good educator? I'm curious.
I guess seeing different
Yeah,
scenarios, different families, different needs. I think that's where I became great at it. And the funny thing is that I consider myself an introvert. You know, I think I gotten better in the past year or so. Um, but I'm not out there. Like if I don't know you, it's hard for me to come to you and say, hey, I'm Francisco. In
Yeah.
fact, like, if you see me at any network event, I don't like to present myself as mortgage lender. I'm
Yeah.
just there. I talk to anyone. I'll talk to you, and we go and I can even talk to you about my kids, about Vermont. Like I think I sell my house in Vermont more than I sell my mortgage business because
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a cabin in Vermont, and we have it on Airbnb. So a lot
Yeah.
of people, I'm just like, oh yeah, we do Airbnb. Here's the link. Blah 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 blah. Later on somebody comes in like, oh yeah, that's Francisco, he does mortgages. It's like, oh yeah, I do mortgages. I
Yeah.
like to
Yeah.
leave that on the side, and then if somebody else comes and talks about it, then I do. I don't like to push that out there, like, hey, let's do business, like you're a realtor, I'm a lender, let's do that. I don't work like that, and that's just me.
Yeah.
um
I wish
but
more people were like that because our industry has a lot of people like that. But
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and it's kind of like the norm is what work because, like you said, at the end of the day, it is a sales job, right? And that's how we feed our families. So different people works different ways, right?
yeah.
And this is what's worked for me. And also the thing that's helped me is that I don't work or live for the moment, right? Like I don't say, like by the end of the year, I need to have $1 million, or
Yeah.
like I need to have more money right now. I'm like in the future. Okay, so in 2 years from now, I'm working towards this goal, and I don't care how long it takes me in terms of months, but I'm gonna get there, right?
Mm.
So periodically incremented my income, but not necessarily like, oh my God, like by the end of the year, I need to have $20 million in sales.
Yeah.
I've never worked like that. I've never put that in my head. It's always been like, okay, in 5 years, I need to have this goal, but not necessarily just as sales. Like my goal is to, have the branch,
Mm.
so that way I can manage different loan officers and not so much kill myself being out there.
Yeah, no,
Um,
100%. So, I mean, this conversation we didn't talk about it much, but again, you are a loan officer, and so for anyone that's interested in finding out more about you, Francisco, and connecting with you, where can we find you at? Where can we connect with you if we did need an amazing loan officer?
yeah, for sure. Well, I have my Instagram page that I've been working at for the past 2 years. It's Mortgage World with Frank. Every Tuesday, I do Tuesday tips, which I should be working on right after this meeting.
Yeah,
But also, you can contact me directly at 203-631-0692. That's my direct line. You can call me, text me. Like I tell everyone, if I don't answer, just please leave me a voicemail or a text because there's so many calls that come through that if I don't see a text or a voicemail, I unfortunately I won't get back to you. But those are my two primary ways of contact me: Instagram or direct line. If you
and
want to
so
stop by
Francis,
the office, well, you're welcome to come to 83 East Avenue in Norwalk, Connecticut, Suite 305.
boom, amazing. So, Francisco, now it's time for our famous five. Same five question we ask every single guest that hops on the show. Question number one is, what is the most impactful lesson you've learned in life?
Boy, that's most impactful lesson. I think it goes back to my mom. When I used to skip school, and she'll be like, you know, God is always watching. If I'm gonna do something wrong, that's always staying in my mind because fortunate and unfortunate, every time I'm gonna do something wrong, something happens. So she's like, you have an angel that's watching over you. So make sure that before you do something wrong, or that you think that about to do something wrong, think it twice and make sure that it's you do the right thing. So that's one.
What is the most admirable trait a person can have?
I think honesty. Honesty. It comes a long way.
I just did an interview right before we hopped on. They said the same exact thing, so I agree. Honesty is very important. Uh,
Yeah.
third question: If you had to change someone's life but only had one book to recommend, which would it be?
Boy, I'm not so big on reading, to be honest. So anything on, I would say anything
What
on,
about podcasts? Are you a podcast guy?
no, I unfortunately don't have much of time. Sometimes I'll listen to it when I'm driving,
Yeah.
but anything of self-motivation,
Yep. All right. So, what is the legacy that you're working on leaving behind?
legacy is to be a good dad for the kids to see what a good dad is and a present dad. That's the legacy I'm working for. And honesty, number one, self-respect, and to try hard.
And for anyone that wants to embark on their walk to wealth, what is the first step you recommend they take?
First step is for you to jump on it. And if you're thinking about it, even if it's in your head as a thought and you're doubting yourself, just jump on it. Don't hesitate.
Amazing. Francisco, thank you so much for your time, your energy, your wisdom that you shared. Glad we were able to finally connect. Glad you were able to hop on the podcast. So much that we have in store to continue collaborating and growing together, man. So I'm excited. And
Yes, sir.
that being said, thank you so much for tuning into the Walk to Wealth podcast. And I will see you in the next episode. Thank you for tuning in to the Walk to Wealth podcast. There's an old African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. So make sure to hit that subscribe or follow button so we can continue on our journey to wealth together. And again, I'm your host, John Mendez, and I'll see you on the next episode.